Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new video on the channel, guys. So what I have for you guys today is another episode of our championship score predictions, guys. So we are now into week 28 of our championship score predictions, guys, and coming up this week, once again, we have some massive games going on in the championship, which I'm actually really interested to hear your opinion on. So if you guys haven't seen this series before, let me quickly explain how it all goes down. So every week, guys, I give you my championship score predictions for what I think the results will be with each game going on in the championship. FIFA 17 also makes their predictions, but what I'm really interested though is what you guys have to say. So in the description down below, I'll leave all the fixtures that are taking place this weekend, and I want you guys to go ahead and make your score predictions. And then if you do successfully manage to get any of your scores right, I will include your comment at the start of the next video. And speaking of the next video, guys, I will include your comments now from midweek. So if any of you guys did successfully manage to get any of your midweek score predictions correct, I will include your comment on screen now. So fair play to everyone who did get a midweek scoreline correct. There was a lot of draws going on in midweek. I was quite taken back by that, really. But like I said, we actually had some quite interesting encounters in midweek. We had some actually massive games going on at the bottom of the table, especially, and they'll just have more significance going into this week now, guys, which we'll get into the games now. So our first game we had to talk about, guys, we have Brighton, who are coming up against Derby. So we of course know it's been very precedented this season. The race for the top three, the top two even, really is heating up at the moment between Newcastle, Brighton and Huddersfield as well. So it really is imperative that Brighton go out on Friday night. This game is taking place tonight and pick up all 3 points against Derby. In midweek, Derby managed to get a point against Preston at home, but honestly, I thought they were far from their best in that game. Really wasn't a great performance from Derby, and honestly, maybe taking into considering that performance, they're probably a bit lucky to get a point in that one. So going away to Brighton, I think it will be a very difficult game for Derby. So for that reason, I'm going to go ahead and back a 2-0 home win for Brighton, whereas FIFA's saying it'll be a 0-0 draw. And then for our next game, guys, we have Aston Villa, who are coming up against Sheffield Wednesday. So actually quite a big game, of course. Sheffield Wednesday still haven't guaranteed a place in the playoffs, and they weren't really helped in midweek with only getting a draw against Burton Albion. So their next game, of course, going away to Aston Villa, it's not going to be an easy one for them, because Aston Villa they've had a couple of decent results here and there this season, although 2017 on the whole has been quite a negative year for Aston Villa. However, I do think that when Sheffield Wednesday do come up against a big side, they always do seem to raise their game, and I don't think that there's any question actually as to whether Aston Villa are a big side or not. And I just feel like throughout the season, Wednesday really do seem to raise their games against those bigger opposition. So despite where they lie in the table, I'm going to fancy Wednesday to turn up for this one. So I'm going to go ahead and back a 2-1 victory for Sheffield Wednesday, although with how unpredictable they are, that one could go either way, to be completely honest, whereas FIFA's actually going to agree with me that Wednesday are going to win, but FIFA's saying it'll be a 2-0 Sheffield Wednesday win. And then into our next game, guys, we have Barnsley, who are coming up against Ipswich Town. So quite an interesting encounter actually, these two coming up against each other, who are they're not too far away from each other in the table. Barnsley slightly above Ipswich at this point in time, and two sides which on their day, of course, we've seen throughout the majority of this season are really able to give anyone in this division, you know, a game, and we've seen that especially with Ipswich in 2017, and throughout the majority of it, Barnsley from the season, they've been proving people wrong from the off. So with this one going into it, it is quite a difficult one to actually predict as to what side you're actually going to put your money on. So I'm interested to know what you guys have to say about this one. But I'm going to go ahead and say they'll cancel each other out, and it will end as a 1-1 draw, whereas FIFA is going to back an away victory for Ipswich. And then getting into our next game, guys, we have Brentford, who are coming up against Huddersfield Town. So of course, lately we've been talking about, just before we were talking about Brighton in the race for the top two, and Huddersfield at this point in time are certainly not out of that race, but it is crucial for them to go to places like Brentford this season. Now, if they are going to really continue that press to get into the top two, Huddersfield need to be going to games against the teams sort of like Brentford and picking up all 3 points. So it gets to this point in the season when you really get to see what a team's made of. You know, it's at this point in the season, or around about this time, where a lot of teams tend to crack. So I think it's games going up against sides like Brentford away from home for Huddersfield, where we'll really see what they're made out of and what their mentality really is like. But Huddersfield have just been proving people wrong all season. So for this one, I'm going to fancy a Huddersfield victory. I think it will be a tight one. I think Brentford are a decent side, but I think Huddersfield will come out with a 2-1 victory, whereas FIFA's saying it'll be a 1-0 home win to Brentford. And then going into our next game, guys, we have Burton Albion, who are coming up against Nottingham Forest, and this is actually quite an interesting encounter going on around the bottom of the table. I wouldn't say either of these sides are safe from relegation at this point in time, although at this point in time, of course, they're not looking too bad. But if Burton Albion do go ahead and win this match, they will actually go above Nottingham Forest, and that will leave them in a bit of a perilous position there, Nottingham Forest, if that was to be the case. And I do think with how inconsistent Forest have been, really, you never really know what team's going to turn up for them, and it's a difficult one to predict. I do see this one being quite a low scorer. I think it'll be quite a defensive game from each side with the way that they both are going to set up, in my opinion. But honestly, I just fancy the home side, Burton, to go ahead and snatch a victory in this one. I could be wrong, but I'm going to go ahead and say it will finish 1-0 to Burton Albion, and FIFA's actually going to agree with me for that one. Both myself and FIFA are saying 1-0 Burton. And then going into our next game, guys, we have Cardiff City, who are coming up against Birmingham. So of course, Birmingham coming off the back of that very disappointing defeat they had in midweek to Wigan Athletic at home, and Cardiff equally not really coming off the best result, only getting a point against Blackburn Rovers. However, this one is with Birmingham, it just seems to be a really odd one. They seem to lose 10 games, then win 1 game really convincingly, and then they just seem to go in another really bad run of form. So going up against Cardiff, I think that Cardiff's home record in 2017 really has something which could be admired this year. So for that reason, I'm going to go ahead and back a 3-1 victory for Cardiff. I just think with how inconsistent with this Birmingham side is, I don't really feel too safe in backing them for this one, but FIFA is actually going to back Birmingham for a 1-0 victory. And then going into our next game, guys, we have Leeds United, who are coming up against Queen's Park Rangers, and once again a massive game going on for Leeds United. You know, with how tight it actually is in the playoffs, and with teams like Fulham chasing the top 6 down, it is massive that Leeds make full advantage really of their home form, and all their home matches for the remainder of the season I think Leeds will be targeting as victories. But they're coming up against the QPR side, who I think on their day are capable of giving anyone in this division a decent run for their money. I mean, they've got quality players dotted around the pitch, and I do think they'll make Leeds work for this game. However, I just think in the end Leeds' quality could come through. So for this one, I'm just about going to back a 2-1 victory for Leeds, whereas FIFA's saying this one will be a 1-1 draw. And then going into our next game, guys, we have a massive game. This is actually probably the game that I'm most looking forward to seeing what the outcome of it will actually be, because I think that this could be Fulham's biggest game of the season. You know, if they were to go ahead and beat Newcastle away from home, that would be a huge statement of intent from Fulham to go ahead and say, you know what, we really are taking this playoff push very seriously at this point in time. And honestly, I do think they can do it. I think within that Fulham squad, I think there's things within that Newcastle team which could potentially be exposed, and I think with some of the dynamics which Fulham have got going forward, they honestly could beat this Newcastle side. However, am I going to be brave enough to back Fulham for an away victory? Oh, it's such a tough one, this one, to predict, but I do see quite a few goals being scored in this one. I think the attacking prowess which both of these sides possess is absolutely exceptional. So for this one, I'm going to go ahead and back a 2-2 draw. I'll be very interested to know what you guys have to say about this one, because this could be the biggest game of the weekend. FIFA's saying it'll be a 1-1 draw. And then getting into our next game, guys, we have Norwich City, who are coming up against Blackburn Rovers. So under Tony Mowbray, Blackburn really do seem to have turned the corner. I think it's fair to say, you know, their performances recently have really seemed to pick themselves up, and most notably with the Tony Mowbray regime, I'd say the biggest result for Blackburn was that victory against Wigan Athletic on Saturday last week. So coming up against Norwich away from home, I do think that Blackburn will be coming into this one really feeling a bit better about themselves really. I just think there's a lot of negativity at this point in time going around the Norwich camp, and understandably so. You know, it's looking pretty much near impossible now that Norwich are going to make any challenge for the playoffs, and I think everyone really will be baffled if they did make it at the end. So I think this season really has to be looked at Norwich as really a failure. You know, if you're looking at their squad, if they're not going to get into the playoffs with that squad, I think it can only be a failure this season for Norwich. And I think that with Norwich being in this poor run of form, Blackburn will be looking to take full advantage of that. However, Norwich are a side which seems to turn it on and look a little bit more confident when they are at home opposed to away from home. But of course, we've seen anomalies in that pattern throughout the season, but for this one, I'm going to go ahead and back a 1-1 draw. I think Blackburn could take all 3 points, but I think Norwich will be looking for a reaction in this one, especially. But FIFA's actually going to go ahead and back a 2-0 win for Blackburn. This could be a massive game for them. And then into our next game, guys, we have Michael Preston North End, who are coming up against Reading at home. So this is actually a really difficult one to predict, in my opinion, and I'm not really sure which way to go about it, because honestly, it wouldn't surprise me however this game went, to be honest. Preston really don't have much to play for in the end of this season, you know. I'd be very surprised if we were to make the playoffs now, to be completely honest. And of course, Reading have everything to play for at the moment. They really are looking to solidify that place they have in the playoffs and coming into the playoffs really with a good sense of momentum, because that can be massive really for any sides going into that. But for this game, I'm expecting Reading to have something like 99% possession or something like that. But for this one, I do think it'll be quite a tight game, to be completely honest, but I just think with Reading having more to play for than Preston do, I think their players may be a tad bit more motivated, have a bit more drive about them and stuff like that. So although I do think we could have exposed some of Reading's weaknesses, I'm going to go ahead and back a 2-1 victory for Reading. I think they are a decent side this year, whereas FIFA's saying Preston will come out with a 1-0 win. I'd take that. And then for our next game, guys, we have one of the biggest games of the weekend going on, guys. We have Wigan Athletic, who are coming up against Bristol City. And, oh boy, this could be a really interesting encounter. Although I say it could be an interesting encounter, I actually am going to go ahead and back a 0-0 draw for this one. To be completely honest, I think both of these sides lately have been quite shy in front of goal. I think that's fair to say. And both these sides have problems scoring goals at the moment. And so for them to come up against each other, you know, I'm probably going to be proven completely wrong for this one. And it'll end like 5-5 or something like that. But I just think with both these lacking a little bit of quality and a little bit of confidence more than anything going forward, I'm going to go ahead and back a 0-0 draw. But this game has such a huge significance for either of these sides, because honestly, if Wigan were to go ahead and beat Bristol City, could that be the end for Lee Johnson? I think it should be, but honestly, I don't think it will be. For the board to stick with Lee Johnson for this long, I don't think they're going to have like a knee-jerk reaction, and I think they possibly could have left it too late with getting rid of Lee Johnson from Bristol City's perspective. So let me know what you think of that down below, Bristol City fans. But for this one, I'm going to back a 0-0 draw. FIFA's also saying it'll be a 0-0. And then for our last game taking place, guys, we have Wolves, who are coming up against Rotherham. And, you know, this may not be the game to actually initially catch your eye for the weekend games going on, guys. But Wolves definitely aren't clear of relegation, you know. The run of form which they've gone under in 2017 especially has dragged them right down into that picture, and honestly, they could be looking like one of the favourites for relegation at this point in time. And they're coming up against a side like Rotherham, who I'd say that pretty much every team in the division now is targeting a game against Rotherham that they have left as a victory. But honestly, I'm going to go ahead and do something quite unorthodox here, perhaps. I'm going to go ahead and predict a 1-1 draw for this game. Honestly, Wolves could go ahead and blow Rotherham completely out of the water for this one, but honestly, I just don't have much confidence with how Wolves are playing at this point in time. I think defensively they're looking a bit shaky, and going forward they've looked very limp lately, especially compared to earlier in the season. So like I said, for this one, I'm actually going to go ahead, stick my neck on the line. I'll say it's going to win 1-1. FIFA's saying it'll be a 0-0 draw. So there you have it, guys. There are all the fixtures that are taking place this weekend in the Championship, guys. So as always, I'd love to know your opinions on what you think will happen this weekend in the Championship, guys. First of all, apologies as well that I've not been able to get any other videos out this week, guys. I've just been super busy this week, so apologies for that. But if you have enjoyed this video, guys, make sure you leave a like. It is always massively appreciated. Make sure you subscribe for regular Championship content. As well as that, make sure you check out all the other links in the description down below. But apart from that, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.